Welcome to Breaking Boundaries podcast. I'm Matt Collamer here with my co-host Rafael Avcioglu. On this podcast, we interview people that are pushing themselves and testing their limits within art, business, and entrepreneurship.
What drives you, what pushes you to your breaking point, and what got you to where you are right now? This is Breaking Boundaries podcast.
All right, guys, we are back with another episode of the Breaking Boundaries podcast. I'm Matt Collamer. This is Rafael Avcioglu.
Hey.
And yeah, we figured we'd do another episode with just us two, talking about some of these topics related to creativity, art, entrepreneurship, all that good business stuff. And so we wanted to talk today, and I'll let Rafael kick it off.
Yeah, I mean, we started talking a little bit after we recorded a podcast, and we figured why not hit record and do a little bit of our own one-on-one. But we were talking a lot about a pretty interesting topic that I feel like a lot of people struggle with, which is the creative versus the entrepreneur side of things, and how to stay. I mean, this is really broad, but how to stay current, how to stay creative, how to continue to do what you want to do while making money. What's more important, to stay true to your art and stay creative, or to go with the times, go with the trends, and make money? Can you do both? A lot of these things. And I mean, it's just interesting because and as I think people will kind of come to realize as they watch the podcast, is that Matt and I are very different in that I've kind of always done this creative thing and always done like, oh, I'll just continue to do what I want to do, And now I'm kind of in the last year, I would say, since I graduated, kind of more thinking about, well, how do I make money doing this? Because I made money during college by doing gigs here and there, doing internships and stuff like that, and doing, a headshot here or BTS for this or whatever. But I never really had anything really set up, and I think that I was driving in so many different directions, but one of the ways I wasn't driving in is, here are my goals, here's a list of these goals that I want to hit, and how to do this. I just kept saying, I want to do this, or you'll see, I'm going to be the best photographer. But I never was like, this is exactly how I'm going to do it,
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that you can learn from all of this stuff. And honestly, when I first started doing photo and video, I became obsessed with, I started with video and I became obsessed with it. And I kind of had the mindset of, I want to be like an artist type. And it's all about the art and like what you're saying with your art, and it's art, which like it is in a way, but I kind of also think about it as like, if you really want to do this like for your career, and not everyone does, and that's okay too, but both of us are in that camp, and we just this is what we want to do. And what I've realized from just reading a ton of books, reading through a lot of different things online, and then also listening to podcasts, watching films about people that do this full time, and they're telling you over and over the realities of it and what it really is, not what it looks like it is, not what it seems to be, but what it really is. And what I realized is like, if you really want to make this work, you have to diversify. Yeah. And you have to have, you could try to only get photo gigs or only get video gigs, and honestly, you can end up making a lot of money from that if you network correctly and you get in with, the right people and stuff. But, you might as well not have one fail point, or, set yourself up to have only one stream of money coming in. Like, if you really want to do this, there's so many avenues that you can take it down. And I just started exploring that. Right. At first I started freelancing or, pursuing this about a year and a half ago. And I was only trying to get money or attempting to make money from like a gig that I would get. Right. And now I realize there's an abundance of opportunity to kind of take it in all directions. Like, yes, I want to get money from gigs and from clients. But then you can also do things online like YouTube, or you can start a podcast. Right. slowly build it up. You got to have patience with this stuff as well. But then there's also like a thing I started using is stock video site. You upload your footage there, and then you make a percentage when that footage is sold on.
Right.
So like some of my stuff now is on Adobe stock.
Right.
So people can buy my footage, and then if they buy it, I get a percentage of that.
Right.
And then I also want to start selling some of my own products, whether those are like, video color presets,
Right.
things like that, and maybe even creating some kind of guide or like a how to start this kind of thing. I don't know. There's a lot of that already going on, so I want to take it a little bit of a different direction than like the plethora of all the stuff that exists in that realm. But there really is like a lot of ways to make money.
Yeah, and I think that the way I because this is all very new to me as well, even though I picked up a camera 4 years ago, it was a very, very slow start. And I don't mean that I wasn't picking up the camera, every week, because I was. And I wasn't shooting enough photos because I was. But I had a lot. I didn't really have much mentorship. So I was very much like, just really trying it on my own to like see like, and I'm not like here to like bash my school, but there was only a few people that you could kind of tell in the department that I went to a big school, but small art department. There was really only a few people that you could tell like, oh, we're gonna do this and we're gonna be the best at this, and nobody that I knew was like, oh, I'm gonna do photo and I'm gonna be the best at photo. It was like, only a few people, and maybe they were painters or sculptors or graphic designers or whatever. Yeah. And so like when I decided that like, oh, this is like something I really want to do, I was like, hey, someone help me. Hey, like I don't really know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And there's like YouTube and everything like that, and I highly recommend everyone utilize that. But at the time I was kind of like, I was just like driving in so many directions that might have not been the right directions, but I learned a lot in the process. But I was just like, I would just drive super hard in this direction that I thought, would be maybe posting on social media every day and sharing my work every day. But you can't just do that. You can't just do that and be like, oh, something will come. Like, it's just not realistic, But even when I first started, I wasn't even doing hashtags because I thought I was above that, or something like that. So it's these different ways that you kind of learn, especially if you're not even in a hole, but you're afraid to reach out. Reaching out is everything. Even if you don't get responses, don't get discouraged. Reaching out is everything from the person that has no clout or anything to like the person that you aspire to be or dream to be one day. Reach out to everyone in between and above. But the thing is that like I only really, really recently, I would say, was like, oh, yeah, like, kind of like if you don't have your presets up for sale, if you don't have your prints up for sale, if you're not putting your stuff up on, like, a stock imagery website, if you're not trying to do other things, like our one of the friends that'll come out probably before this episode comes out is a musician, but he just dove into video because he's like, yeah, like this is wanted to do it, but also this will like benefit. This is like a good idea to like be able to like diversify his palette. You know what I'm saying? And same as like, I hope to hop into like a little bit of music production one day. It's like it's these different ways that you feel like you can't be an everything shooter necessarily. Like you should find what you're best at and stick towards that route and spend the most time on that route. So I shouldn't be like, I'm a portrait landscape product commercial photographer, like like I'm a fashion product, all this, like it's you should know like what you do best and try your best to stick in that lane. But I think the problem is that if you're not at least trying to, let's just say, sell your presets or something like that, if you're not like trying to have a little bit of income from this area, then I don't think that with everything that's available to both of us these days, I don't really think that you're really wanting to do this that badly,
Yeah.
In my opinion, and there's no fault to that. But just know that if you really want to do this that badly, then you should try and be up on all these things and do your best. And it takes fucking time, but you should try and be up on all these things so that you can make a little bit of cash here, a little bit of cash there, a little bit of cash there. When money's tight or it's not wedding season, then you know you have income coming in from the podcast, and you know you have income coming in here, so that you can really like lengthen your palette and make it last. And
exactly,
I'm learning that now, so I'm not talking from above, I'm talking from below, but it's like it's important as hell.
Yeah, I mean, there really is just so many avenues that you can go down. That's just what I've realized by just listening to people that are in the position that maybe I want to be in, and just studying them, really. And like you said, if you really want to do it, it's available. Like, there's so many resources available. I think it's just about taking the time to like slow down,
right,
and try to be like, okay, what should I actually spend time in? Because you're right, it can be overwhelming, and you don't want to spread yourself too thin.
Right.
You want to put your energy in the right areas, and that's a
Right.
tricky thing to do.
Right.
Because then there's. You just think about how many apps there are, how many social media sites there are.
Right.
And even that's just one part of it, like that, and that can be overwhelming. So it's like, figuring out which ones you want to focus on. But yeah, like I just think that's really how you like. That's just like what any kind of business that you want to do. If you want to create a business out of your own stuff,
right,
that's what a lot of us want to do. The biggest thing is diversify. Like
right.
For example, my mom works at Comcast. And Comcast is a huge like corporation, all this stuff. They're actually losing a lot of customers for their cable.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like all the people in their 20s like us are like, we don't need cable.
Right.
We'll just use Netflix and we'll just stream.
Of course.
Or whatever. And we don't need news sites. Like we have social media. We don't need any of that. So, in like live sports, like there are definitely ways to get live streams online, which, hey, I'm not advocating. It's technically like probably not legal.
Yeah.
But
I do it, yeah. Yeah, I do it.
But no, so, there's a lot of avenues. So with Comcast, for example, they're seeing that trend, and now they do a phone service, just like Verizon. So they're diversifying. They do other things. They do Wi-Fi. They do, the cable, obviously, but then they also do the phones now and stuff like that. So like even big businesses like that. So you can take those tactics of the big businesses, even if you're like a solo like entrepreneur, or you have like a small business or whatever you want to call yourself. You can take those tactics and implement them into your life.
Right.
And I think that's a big deal. And just knowing that, and I just think this is like, I think everyone is creative, in my opinion. It's just whether they want to act upon it.
Around, yeah.
They just want to act on that.
Yeah.
And then also, I think of it as, like we all have like creative minds, and some of us decide to pursue that. And then like you talked about in the beginning of the podcast, we, like if you're a creative type, you like think a lot about the art, and you like spend a lot of time in that, like the depth of like the art and like what it means and why you're doing it. Right? And what you're saying to other people. And I think it does always matter, but I think about creativity now as like, I can build my life in a creative way.
Right.
Like, I think that's badass.
Yeah.
Like, and like, that's what I've been learning about. And by no means am I an expert on any of it, but I've just learned a lot because I've like decided to go down this path.
Right.
And I know it's not for everyone. That's for damn sure. But like, if it is for you,
right,
it's a hell of a ride. And it's like, to me, it's like it's so worthwhile because there's just so much that you learn in the process of it. Yeah. And you just like, you don't know what you're doing, but you kind of just throw yourself into it, and you're just like, it's one of those things where you have this feeling where you're kind of scared. You're like, have this kind of like this little bit of fear coming over you about what you're doing, but it's one of those things that that you have to do to get yourself to the next level. Right. And that's how I feel a lot of the times. And sometimes, I'm going with some shoot or something, some unfamiliar scenario, and I'm like, shit, like, I don't want to fuck up, or like, I'm nervous. Right. But then I'm like, this is good. Like, I know that I'm doing the right thing because I have these feelings.
Sure. I was going to say that to like wrap it around to like the whole like creativity thing is that I feel like so like to touch upon what you said Like if you want to do concert photography or you want to shoot for your idols, musicians and whatnot, but you're just like, man, there's all these free concerts that I go to, or like, shit, I'm fucking paying tickets. They're allowing me to have my camera in there, but I'm like paying for these tickets to go to these concerts, whatever. But like, you know, if you live in somewhere like New York, there's like a ton of free concerts to go to, and free clubs that are throwing free concerts. So, but they're not paying you, you know what I'm saying? But you're really trying to build that portfolio fat, and you're really trying to like make sure you get like all like the small bands and all this stuff like that, and really like build up your stuff, because that's like the opportunities that you're getting. Then, you know, you're shooting a wedding once a month, or twice a month, and that could be your income. To Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, you're shooting concerts. Saturday, Sunday, you're shooting weddings.
Yep.
And that can be your shit, you know. But if you're shooting, if you want to be a concert photographer, but you're spending, you know, Saturday, Sunday shooting weddings, and you're spending Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday editing and we're meeting with clients, and you know, really trying to like get these weddings, and then you're like, man, why am I not a concert photographer yet? Because you're only spending Fridays on concerts. Then it's like, that's not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you really
for sure.
have to like. You want to be a certain photographer, but you're doing other things that aren't helping you to get to where you want to be, as like the style of video content, as the style of musician. You know, you think that rap pays and you're a decent rapper, but really all you've ever wanted to do is do alternative music. But you keep rapping because you're like, oh, I don't know, everyone really likes that, so it's like cool. But then you're wondering why you're not an alternative artist, and it's like, because you didn't like manifest that, because you didn't go down that route, because you did what you thought, you know, would make you all the money. Which is why it's like, for me, I do commercial gigs on the side. I don't post a lot about them, almost never. But I do a lot of commercial gigs that I don't really advertise so much about. I think it's important to have a portfolio for weddings. I think it's important to have a portfolio of commercial work. I have a nice portfolio that I did an internship on product work that a lot of people don't know about, that I just send when I want to like get someone to pay me to do their product, or they put an ad out looking for a photographer for product.
Yeah.
I send them that portfolio because I have that shit locked down. But I make sure that for me, like, it's basically gotten to the point where it's gotten to this way for many other people, but I cannot live without creating. Like,
yeah.
And not just creating on like I made a glitchy thing here, I made a glitchy thing there, pushing that creativity, thinking, how can I manipulate, how can I turn around, how can I shoot on camera, how can I Photoshop this together, how can I piece this together, how can I start scanning stuff in, start putting paint over that, and then scanning that in, thinking of new ways to create. That's what feeds my high, and I want my high to be what I do for a living. Eventually. Sure. So that's why it's like, for some people, it's definitely different. But for me, I've gotten to the point where that is my like addiction, is creating. But I can do that once a week on Monday and Tuesday and go, cool, I had a couple shoots, create something glitchy, sweet. And then the other days I focus on hustling and getting that other shit done.
For sure.
And once a week, twice a week, create like 10 dope images. And then throughout the week, I'm just posting them.
For sure.
You know, sharing my work.
It's definitely all a balance. We're going to take a quick pause. We'll be right back.
Thank you for listening to episode 9 of Breaking Boundaries podcast with your hosts, Matt Collamer and Rafael Avcioglu. We wanted to give a quick shout out to everybody out there who has supported us thus far on our podcast journey. It wouldn't be possible without all of you, so thank you. We hope that you can learn something from each and every episode, and you can take that with you and use that in your life, personally, business-wise, in entrepreneurship, and any other endeavors that you undertake. We want to really help you guys, and whatever we can do, let us know. Please, if you have any suggestions, it would be great to hear from you. Again, I've said this before, but please rate and review the podcast, subscribe on iTunes and on Spotify. That really helps us out as we continue to try to grow the podcast bigger and reach more people. Also, we wanted to let you know that we are doing a live podcast March 14th at the Industrious Seaport, which is a co-working space in Boston. We're doing that in partnership with Following Boston, and we're really psyched on this, so stay tuned for that. We'll give more details as we get those. But March 14th It's going to be from 6:30 to 10:30, and we're going to have a few guests. There's going to be free food and booze as well at the event. So if you're local or you want to come out for the event, definitely come out, and it would be awesome to have you. So just want to let you guys know. Once again, thank you for listening, and we'll get back to episode 9 of Breaking Boundaries podcast.
Yo, okay, so we're back with the Breaking Boundaries podcast. And I just wanted to continue on a little bit for what I was talking about as far as like, for me, it's really been, since I started, so many trips, uphills, downhills, doing things for others, doing things for myself, really trying, and I feel like I've really kind of found my spot, and I'm definitely still uncomfortable, which is good because I think that's important as well, because it definitely like pushes me to be where I want to be, because once I am super comfortable, then it's like I feel like I'm sitting stagnant, and actually the feeling of being comfortable makes me uncomfortable. Like I'm just like, wait, things are a little bit too leveled right now. But I will say that it's become so much in a way that I've had friends who have picked up the camera, and they're in their 30s or 40s right now and stuff like that. But at one point or another, they picked up the camera and they just started killing it, as far as like, I'm talking making like 50 to 60 a year doing weddings. And it turned into too much of a job for them and less of what they originally had intended to do with the camera. Right. To that point, it becomes a job's a job. It's hard work. I feel for myself, it's easier to put in that hard work when you have somewhat of an idea, somewhat of a destination, somewhat of a plan, somewhat of a, okay, I think I know where I want to go with this. And you start to see that kind of like plan unravel as you continue to put in that hard work. For sure. But I think it's tough when, so it's like not hard for me to stay up late doing what I love, so it definitely is considered work, and it's definitely like monogamous and like tedious at times. Monogamous? No, that's not the word. Tedious I was thinking of.
Monotonous, yeah.
Monotonous. Monogamous is
Are
a
you
very
monogamous?
What does that mean?
That's
like you.
That's if you only would be with one person.
Yeah, I'm definitely monogamous. Yeah.
You're not a polygamist?
No, I'm not a
polygamist. Damn
it! I can't even do that. I can't even do that. Yeah, no, I'm very much, if you're mine, you're mine. I want that to be just me and you doing that thing.
No, yeah, it can definitely. Yeah, dude, I hear what you're saying. Like, it can definitely get monotonous, and it's one of these things too. I think it's also a false thing when, you hear all the time, like, you do what you love to do, like follow your passion type kind of mentality, which I think there's a lot of merit in that for sure. Yeah. But it's still like, from an outsider's perspective, like someone that isn't doing what they want to do.
Right.
That person that is. One, they took a lot, like they're dedicating their life to that stuff. Right. And it's still a lot of ups and downs and a lot of hard work. It's not just sunshine and rainbows all fucking day.
Oh, it might look that way via social media. You know what I'm saying?
It's just not reality.
I get direct messages all the time from people going like, dude, it's so cool that you're able to like do all these things and like get paid a lot to do it. And I'm like, is that what it looks like? Cool, dude. Yeah. Right on. I guess the whole social media thing is kind of doing its job, which I feel like in a sense, I mean, you do put on that little bit of like, I say it like it is, and I try and be very truthful, especially if you read my captions on my photographs and stuff like that. For sure, but at the end of the day, it is very much like, social media should be kind of that front where you're like, I am a professional photographer, like, this is what the fuck I do, and I'm doing it, because you don't want it to be like, I don't know.
Like, super wishy-washy, like,
yeah.
Unless you want to be that way. But, like, if you're trying to do it professionally.
I don't think it's going to help you get business.
It's not. And it's a weird thing because, yes, there's all these false perceptions of what people are actually doing if they have these, like, massive followings, but there's a whole spectrum.
Or live the lavish life, or private jets, or anything.
Yeah, there's a whole spectrum. Like, some of these people that, and I think it's I think it's more like the general public that isn't in this industry at least, or isn't trying to be in this like creative space. It's even more so. They're like more like in a way, maybe not fooled, but they're more attracted to it or whatever it is, because it's a false perception. Like they think, okay, this person from high school has like 20,000 followers. They must be like famous now and making boatloads of money. And like, it's just like most likely not true.
Yeah.
But then there's like, there's some people that on Instagram with 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
And there's some people that are like creating a dope business out of that and actually making like over $100,000 or more.
Yeah.
But then there's also people that have these massive followings that can't seem to put it together.
That don't even know like how to put up a gallery show or do anything like that. Because they're like, what do you mean? Like I can teach like photo workshops. I'm like, yeah, dude, you have like 100,000 followers. Like,
yeah,
like real followers that love your shit. You could definitely do photo workshops. And they're like, well, how would you even go about doing that? Because actually they're a nurse and they don't do that, you know?
Right. So like there's such a wide spectrum, and I've heard also recently on a photography podcast that I listened to called Art of Visuals. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Prince McClinton. Guy's the man. He kills it. I love his podcast. And he talks about this same topic, and I thought it was a good topic. And he said, honestly, bro, like, there are people that have these massive followings that are like really killing it, but then there's also those people that aren't really doing much with like the business stuff. And there's also like a sense of like there's people that are like way more like lesser known that are actually the ones that are like creating businesses out of it. And that's definitely, part of it too. So
yeah, I feel like it sits wide, and I still want to continue to wrap it around to this like staying true and being creative. I just feel that there is a way to advertise both, and there is a way to make both happen. I never want to lose that side of me that's doing what I've been doing for so long, because it'll lose the purpose of the whole process of what I'm trying to do here. If I make a living shooting photographs of yachts, then dope, so long as it funds me to continue to create on the side, and do my creative projects on the side. But if my main deal is I got a deal with a company that sends me around the world to shoot yachts, fucking cool, because I think ultimately holding the camera and getting paid to do it has always been like my main goal. So that's like still my main goal, and that's still like doing what I wanted to do, which is get paid to hold the camera and shoot photos on the camera. But if I hate shooting these yachts, and if I hate traveling for whatever reason, I just absolutely hate it or something like that, I don't, but if I did, then that would be taking away from another like part of this goal, which is to do what I really want to do for a living, and to know that I decided that this is what I want to do and I made it happen for a living. But it can go down like many different avenues, and I think that like you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna shut down that gig because like that's not what I want to do at all. But I think as you continue to grow, and as you continue to like get gigs, and as you continue to work over the years, you'll be able to do that more and more and go, sorry, dude, I don't shoot yachts. Like, that's not what I do.
For sure. Especially when you're starting out, I think it would be a major mistake to turn down a gig. Like, I think about it in this way. Like, I started shooting weddings this past year a little bit, and like I was able to get some business out of it. It was pretty cool. And I was just starting out with it, so I didn't have a lot of familiarity with it. I wasn't charging a lot. I realized I could charge even more, and I could kind of really present what I want to do within that. But like regardless, I'm getting paid to shoot a wedding. I don't want to be a wedding videographer or wedding photographer strictly, but that like I'll tell you firsthand, shooting a wedding is a great place to learn. Like you have to be super adaptive. You have to, work on the fly. You have to be shooting the whole day. You got to be really on your toes. And you also have to have like a personality. You have to kind of, be friendly to people, and you just socialize. And then you can even promote, like you can even talk to people at that wedding and like promote yourself further in a way. And so I just think about it like that. And it's like, if you're going to be super picky in the beginning, like, come on. Like, because all these gigs that I've done, I realized I've learned from every single one. Whether it was like some like interview thing that I wasn't super pumped about, whether it was a wedding, whether it was this like travel video that I made on my own or whatever it is. Like, I learned from all of those things. So that's the way that I see it. I'm not, like, at this point, I'm not working at, like, you know, I don't know, some shit that I totally don't want to do.
Right.
Like, I'm not working at a gas station so that I can then take photos on the side. I'm doing gigs that are actually making me better at my craft the whole time.
Right.
And I think there's a distinction there. Between doing something completely off of what you want to do so that you can allow yourself to do what you really want to do, where it's like you can do these things that you are in the realm of what you want to do and help you get better to then get to that point where you can be more picky.
Which I also think, and this is speaking to the students of the world, whoever's listening. So those who have who are living in dorms or who are living in some sort of student housing or who are fortunate enough to have their parents paying for their rent or who are fortunate enough to even have been graduated and are living at home rent-free or not having to pay for food.
Yeah.
These speaking to those people, if you are creative and you want to be a creative, this is the time to take those risks and really work on what you want to do and who you want to be, because you don't have to work at that gas station to just like make ends meet, you know. And it's unfortunate that some people do have to do that, who have to pay rent, who maybe either don't have parents or aren't in school or just to have no option to go back home, or don't have a home and need to make their own home, or any of that. But definitely, if you're sitting in your dorm room and you're thinking, oh, it's impossible, oh, this is impossible, this is the time to do the impossible, because you don't have to worry about so many other things that in the real world a lot of people have to worry about and do have to take those other jobs and other gigs that take away from what they're actually trying to do. And I think that's really, really, really important.
That is a super good point. And I have firsthand experience of what Rafael is saying. And I'm honestly lucky in the position that I'm in. So I've had, I graduated college in 2015, and then I was living at school. Then I went back home, lived back at home. I mean, it's something that it was an option for me. And I know a lot of people, they don't want to do that. They don't feel like they're, they want to like be on their own, and I totally get that. So,
or they're not making it if they're living back at home or whatever.
Right, right. And I honestly feel that too. Like it's something that I think a lot of us that are in like our mid 20s or whatever get insecure about.
Yeah.
And I can say that I've definitely been, thought about that too. And so for me, at least, what I thought about that, and I really wanted to travel and go on my own. So I was lucky enough, and this is because of the aid of like financially from my parents. Like I have student loan debts now, but I was helped out at the time to go study abroad in Australia when I was 20, which was like the biggest deal for me. And I ended up doing that. And then that led me to want to do some stuff on my own. Right. So after graduating, I went back, lived at home for about 9 months. Then I decided to apply. During that time, I applied to teach English in Korea. Yeah. And then I went in this program where I taught English in Korea for a year. And it hooked you up with an apartment and everything. So that was my first time that I lived on my own completely, like had my own job. That was my first full-time job, was living and teaching English in Korea. And I had a contract, I had an apartment, and I paid for every other thing by myself. Like I didn't have any help with that stuff. Luckily, the apartment was for free with the program. Yeah. So that's one of the main reasons I did it. Yeah. But yeah, I was able to live over there, and then I traveled for a while, used some of that money, and then I came back home. And when I originally left, before I went to Korea, I thought I wasn't going to come back home and live at home again. Yeah. But I decided when I came back, I lived back at home again, and I am now, right, currently. Yeah. And it's kind of, you get into a trap when you're comparing to other people that, they're the same age, they have like they're married or they're about to get married or engaged, and they have like their own place and they're saving
down
up for a
payment
house.
on a house or something like that.
Yeah. But it's a trap, and what Rafael's saying, and not everyone has this, but I think it is an option for many people, especially if you're a middle class American because this is like the majority of people that at least I know.
Yeah.
You know, there is an option for that, and maybe that's not what people want to do, and I respect that. And for me, like I want to take the next step with my life, like in the next 6 months or so, to have my own place and do all that stuff too. But now, like you said, now is the time, and it has been the time for me personally to pursue this, because I don't have to worry about like paying rent and stuff. I do have a little bit of extra money where I can go travel.
Yeah.
I have the time freedom to really pursue this and really get it going for myself. And if I had to, you know, pay for my own place, or since like getting out of college, I had to do that, then you know what? I might not have been able to, like, I definitely actually wouldn't have been able to put all this time into focusing on my craft, to focus on networking, because I would have, like you said, like you got bills to pay, and that's real life. But there are a lot of kids that have the option, you know, and that's what a lot of kids now, like there's so many people that I know that are, you know, in their early to mid 20s that are like living with their parents and stuff. Maybe they don't fully want to, but with their student loan debts and with, you know, everything, it's something that they need. And I think it is good as long as you know what you're doing with it, and I think you have like a plan of what you want to do.
Yeah, I think it's about utilizing that time, and utilizing that time where you can just go, I'm not going to work a full-time job. I know it's not going to look great. I know that the parents are going to go, what is he doing? You know, but I mean, how many people got wicked famous on Vine whose parents were probably like, what the fuck is he doing? Or like Viva La Bam, like the show with, you know, like, or you know, like these concepts are kind of like coming out, and it's just kind of like, yeah, like I have a vision, like you have a vision, like, you know, make it happen. And if you can make that happen, you know, and you have that buffer, that safety net of living at home, I think it's important. I think that other people will argue that not living at home has helped them to hustle harder. I just think that, like, we were talking about this earlier about putting your energy into certain places. And I think that, like, if I had to hustle harder to work, you know, aside 40 hours a week on something completely different, unrelated to what I want to do, just to like pay rent and to pay for food, then I would still be up late doing Photoshop. I would still be up late trying to hustle photo gigs together and be a weekend warrior and stuff like that. But it would take a lot longer. And I will say this, like tailoring to my own life as far as like my like past with drugs and alcohol, is that I didn't think that it was going to be impossible. I got to this point where I was like, I can't keep doing this for this long if I really want to be who I want to be, and as a person, but also as a creative, because the industry doesn't have time for people like that. But like, I didn't think that there was no way that could happen. I just figured, if I can do this in 3.5 years versus 10 years, for what, 10 years just so I can drink and do drugs, or 3 years being sober or whatever like that, and really get this, you know, thing that I want to get really badly and stuff like that. So I think that like it will take a shorter amount of time if you use that buffer, like living at home, than taking 10 years by being a weekend warrior and doing side stuff, you know. Yeah, trying to do what you want to do.
I totally agree. We're going to continue on this part. We're going to hit pause one more time. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. And Rafael was just talking about, we both were talking about, you know, this thing that a lot of people are running into in their early to mid 20s, just after college, or maybe they didn't go to college. And I think it is a really important time. This is the time to, I believe, for many of us to pursue the things that we want to do. And, you know, everybody has a different situation. You know, I've experienced both sides. Like, I've lived completely on my own, like in a different country. And then I came back not knowing that I was, not thinking originally that that's what I was going to do. But that's just what worked out for me, like money-wise, and just like, you know, really trying to do this thing. And
I thought I was gone as well. Like, I went to California right after I graduated. Like a week after I graduated, I was out with my bags to California, and I was like, never looking back. I was like, see ya.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt. I'm like, yes, dude, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And then I was gone for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I saved money and all this stuff. I spent a lot of it traveling. I kind of wish I saved even more. But, I mean, I learned from it. I learned from all of it. Yeah. And then I was back home. Like luckily my parents are really cool with that. And yeah, it's interesting because there are two different ways to think about it.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah, you know what, if you don't have the safety net, then you have to figure it out yourself. But I think it's just like this window where if you have that opportunity and and it's a good situation for you and you're still growing, then you should do it and take that time to be like, okay, I'm saving money, I'm paying loans, I'm really going after this. Like I'm doing it.
That $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month could be going towards one trip a month if you really want to. If you are working a full-time job but you really want to travel or something like that, that money that would be spent on rent and would be spent on groceries, $300-$400 a month on groceries, like all the little things could be going towards, or you can just set that money aside and that's an extra 12 G's a year that you're like, whoa, didn't think about that, and I think this has worked for me and you. I'm not saying it's work for everybody, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do stuff like Matt and I have done, where it's like we both ran off after college and did our thing for a little while. But because you can learn a ton from that, and like we are both huge advocates for travel. But it's definitely a good way if you're creative, and I've just known so many that are just like, no, I'm living at home right now. Like it's like, yeah, like because you're saving, because you're having that base, because you're having that nice cushion, and it's just like it's so popular around the world. I mean, especially in third world countries, to like live at home for a very long time, but also in places like Europe, like you go off for a year after college and you do your thing and you travel, but then you're back at home, like for however long you need to be.
And I think it can. I can say like I even recently have, for me it's a smart thing to do right now.
That's very
but
smart.
Then I'm 25 right now, and a lot of people in America, they have this kind of view of that as like you're not like providing for yourself, you're not like mature and stuff. So I felt like, damn, like I feel like maybe I should be having my own shit and being more responsible. But it's just,
I feel like it's hard in like the relationship specter if you're like kind of like looking for a relationship.
Exactly.
I think that's hard to front, because I've found that to be hard for myself. It's just
Same.
like this weird like
I don't even
want to say it. I don't even want to say it.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
I've experienced the same thing. Like trying to like in the dating world and stuff, and you meet up with a girl. I've experienced it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, like, do you want to hang out at your place or something? And it's like, you're at your parents' house, and they didn't expect that, or their expectation was that you had your own apartment, or whatever. And I've experienced that multiple times. So
especially living in Boston, where there's such a large college community and stuff like that. So it's like, of course, when I was in college, I had my own place too. Like, but now I'm not.
I had my own apartment before in Korea, and like I experienced that side of it, but and I liked it. And so like it's all about, I think, how you view it and not getting kind of trying to compare to everybody else, because like we said, you got people that are our age that are they're about to get married, and they're getting a house, and they have their own place and all this stuff, and you can get kind of trapped in that and just be like, wow, what am I doing? Like,
and I think we'll like almost like wrap it up a little bit with this and saying that like I feel like life in general, but especially I found it to be in the freelance community, that you are playing a chess game or a checkers game, and you are taking steps forward to take steps backward, to take steps forward, to take steps backward, because what might not be amazing about living with your parents might be amazing about saving that money. What might not be amazing about not having a guaranteed salary every week might be doing what you really want to do, or taking time to do what you really want to do.
Setting yourself up.
Yeah, what might not be super, like, and what Matt and I are doing, and what we're finding to be in the last year of us, like, trying to make a go at this, is doing a ton of stuff that we're like, this is our time right now. This is our time right now that we're doing this podcast, and we have no idea where it's going to go, but we hope it goes somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So it's like just building that community and spending that time. And that's for me, what, to wrap it all around, is continuing to stay true to my creative side and continue to create. It's a lot of time and not even that much of a time. If you get really fucking good at it, it really doesn't take that much time. It's kind of nice to like post something and someone's like, whoa, and I'm like, that took me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's
getting pretty good at this.
Yeah, getting pretty good at this, you know, but like but staying true to that because it is my time that people might not be paying me for, but the hope is that they will eventually because I put in that time and because I stayed. But I will never know if I just drop that side.
Exactly.
I will never know.
There's like now that I've gone down that path, I have to see it through.
Yeah.
And I'm not, you know, and there's been a lot of moments where I'm just like, what am I doing? Like even being abroad, like in Korea, like what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm just growing. And
Yeah.
that's it. And I don't have to listen. I don't have to adhere to someone else's view of it.
Right.
Like I like am building every day, like trust in what I want to do.
Right.
And like faith in the process.
Right.
And I think that's really what it's about. And the thing is, there really is no making it. Like there's no, it's bullshit. Like what it really is just, you know, committing to something and just like really just sticking through it through the ups and downs. Because that like takes courage and that takes, you know, dedication.
And the people that'll say like, oh, well, that's like, well, yeah, it must be nice for them to have this, or yeah, I wanted to do that too when I was younger, but then, you know, you got bills to pay and stuff like that, so I started working at, you know, this job and blah, 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 and this happened and this happened. They didn't stick it through, and there's nothing wrong with that. If they are happy in general, then fine, but the bottom line is that, like, I want to see it through because it's like, I feel like anybody that I feel like didn't make it either didn't make the right moves or like didn't put the energy in the right places, and eventually after years and years and years of trying, you know, like some of my favorite actors were in LA for 10 years getting not one gig, you know, like for 10 years they were trying, not getting one
not
gig,
landing like
but not
like
landing anything.
Role,
not getting anything until one day they were just sitting around ready to leave LA, and it just happened. You know, it just happened. So, you know, 20 years, some of my favorite comedians, you don't hear about them until they're on this podcast or something like that. And it's like, where's this comedian been? And then they just talk about how they've been doing stand-up since they were 21. And you're like, you're 45 now. But they're seeing hella gigs now. You know, they're seeing all of it now.
They saw it through. And like, and there are many ways to do this kind of thing. But like, you know, circling back to like real quick, what we were talking about is like, you know, at this point, for me, it's the smart thing to do for me is like try to keep building my network, like save my money. And then when I want to make the jump and take the next step for me, which I think is coming up, is to, you know, have my own place and be doing this and be able to sustain myself and not just getting by, but like I saved my money when I could.
Yeah.
And now I have like a bit of a cushion that I created myself.
Right.
And I have this network.
Right.
And I have these like jobs lined up where I'm, you know, that could be considered what some people say making it, but it really is, like I said, it's not really making it. It's just deciding to do something, seeing it through, and then just, you know, just being along for the ride and just like, and knowing that that's what it is. It's, like you said, it's 2 steps forward. It's a step back. It's setbacks. It's failures. It's doubt. It's things going your way, things not going your way, and just being like, yo, this is what it is, and this is what I'm about. Like, and I think that's always what it is, and as long as you know, stay true to what you really want to do, and you're, you know, at least like striving to become better, I don't think there's really anything wrong with that, and I think that's really like what it's all about.
Hell yeah, dude! I think we're gonna wrap it up. Breaking Boundaries podcast.
This was awesome, Rafael.
Always a pleasure.
Love jumping on the podcast, and always good conversation.
Hell yeah, likewise, dude.
All right, we'll be signing off. Thanks, guys, for listening. We appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to Breaking Boundaries podcast. We appreciate every listener out there, and we hope that we can continue to provide value and inspiration as you move forward in your lives. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, rate and review, as that helps us out as we strive to make the podcast bigger and reach more people across more platforms. If there's anything we can do to improve the podcast, or if there's any suggestions, please don't hesitate to let us know. We're here for you. Thank you for listening, and continue to break your boundaries.